Welcome back to another video. I have a cold, but I'm going to do this because, yeah, just doing it because I want to do it. But, yeah, I don't make many videos, so a rare one here, and I'm doing one when I have a cold. Why don't you do this after your cold is gone? Well, I thought I'd do it now, because it's a bit sort of one of those time-sensitive ones, you could say. And I trade all the time, well, essentially, most of the time. So I thought I would do this because I'm kind of changing up how I'm approaching a lot of the trading sort of strategies I'm doing. Most of it's actually the same, but there are a few sort of changes that I'm going to go into, more or less around the situation around crypto itself, not necessarily around how I'm sort of trading the asset itself. So, or doing 5x or 3x or anything like that. That's all staying the same. So, what is different now? So, as you know, the situation with the tariffs have massively impacted the markets in a negative way. It's not been positive. We've seen a significant decrease we've seen a significant dump in Bitcoin. In crypto in general, altcoins took the biggest hit on that. We saw the biggest liquidation event ever in crypto. Bigger than FTX, bigger than, what's it called? COVID. I don't know, I did not remember that. Bigger than COVID. So that happened. And overall, altcoins have taken a massive beating, like I said. I predominantly trade Bitcoin anyway. Like, that's 90% of how I do my leverage trading. It's just Bitcoin most of the time, if not all the time. So 90 to 100% of the time it's Bitcoin. And I'm changing that to 100% Bitcoin now for trades. But that's not the big change. The big change is sort of how we should be. Well, obviously this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. You don't need to copy what I'm doing. Maybe you want to, that's up to you, but that's not advice. So what I'm doing, that's the key word there. What I'm doing, I am just trading Bitcoin in terms of, and this is why I'm kind of making this video, in terms of what I'm buying now, it's just going to be Bitcoin. And I never thought I would say that. I've been heavily into alts. I still have all of my alt bags, don't get me wrong. But all of my profits now that I trade will be by Bitcoin. Only Bitcoin. I've got a big bag of Solana and a few other alts, right? If you see XRP on here, that's because I trade it. I used to trade it a bit. I don't hold it. I never will hold XRP. It's just so terrible. But I know a few fans out there of XRP, and that's totally fine. But yeah, I'm just going to be buying Bitcoin. And the reason is, I've got a few notes here. I'm not going to drag them on screen, but this is more obviously a talk video. And of course, a handful of people watch this. So this is primarily for those people. So why am I just going to be buying Bitcoin? Well, the fact is that we've seen Bitcoin dominance skyrockets up to 64%, right? Now, this is obviously because of that news event of the tariff situation, and it's still, pending. It's still looming in the air. It's the dark cloud still above us, right? That hasn't really gone away yet. I tell you now that if this tariff situation does come in, many industries are going to be absolutely destroyed in America, and I don't think it will come into play. I don't think it will happen based on that. I think the car industry alone will get absolutely spanked. I think, Apple have all of their imports far from China. So there are a lot of things, right? And that's just to name a few, because you can name probably 100 more if you just wanted to. So I think, right, that this whole situation, this whole thing, has been just for him, Trump, as one of his political standpoints, and one of his campaigns to be president, right? That's what probably people voted for. But in the end, I don't think it's, because that he proposed that is what he's going to be doing, months ago. But I don't think it's going to happen. I just don't. For those reasons alone, it's just going to disrupt so many things. And I know that's the idea, but it's just going to destroy them. Anyway, that's a topic for another day. Anyway, going back to this. So we saw the situation happen where Bitcoin dominance peaked to 64.29%. And, Bitcoin, it went down to 91. But if we look at, let's look at Solana. Solana went down from, we won't go from this. Let's just say here, 230 to 176. That's a big drop. How much is that? 230. That is a 24%, 23.5% drop, right? Let's look at XR, Stewie and XRP. They got absolutely butchered. Let's look at this. It was around here. So let's say 288. Nearly a 40% drop, so 38% drop in a matter of a few hours, right? This is nuts. That's crazy. But Bitcoin, let's go back to Bitcoin. All right, here we are. So Bitcoin, let's measure this. Let's just say it was here. Let's say 100K. Well, obviously it's easy to do the math, but 9%, right? 9% from 100K to 91. So we saw that, and that's not, you could say, that's a big dip for Bitcoin, of course. But when you consider the alts instead, they took a hell of a beating, like a gargantuan spanking, right? Red Raw, handprint on the arse, that sort of impact it had. It left a horrible mark. Whereas Bitcoin, it was like a slap. A nasty slap. One of those slaps where, oh, what do you do that for? That sort of slap. That's how it felt on Bitcoin. But the alts, no. Absolutely nuked. So that's why I'm changing that up. And I'm saying this in a way because I already knew this, but Bitcoin is obviously the best performing asset. But it has been the best performing asset throughout this cycle. It has. If you look, we're at, well, let's just say 100K. Bitcoin at 100K is insane. We look at Solana. Solana reached, 260 last cycle? It went up to 290. That was because of the Trump thing. Let's just say 260. It reached all-time highs again, 260, 270, right? But Bitcoin reached 100K. Almost a 2x from its previous all-time high of 69, right? You look at, what else? We look at Avalanche. That hasn't even done anything yet. I think its all-time high was, 160? I think it was 160. 147. So Avalanche, that's another example. That hasn't kicked off yet. And we're yet to have altcoin season. Yes, we are still here. But if we take into account that altcoin season is coming later in the year, it's a good time to load up on Bitcoin now, in my opinion, to then perhaps rotate into alts towards the end of the year if we do get altcoin season. I've watched a few videos on Bitcoin throughout the years, of course, but the last week or two, I've been watching more and more about Bitcoin. I don't know why, they've just been popping up. I've just been watching them, and of course, the more you watch about Bitcoin, the more you get recommended. So I've been watching more about Bitcoin, and do you know what's crazy? Is that we are so heavily into alts because we want the potential upside of alts, but they don't really move. They go to, they have their moments, but then they pull back massively. Like, look at Solana and XRP and Sui. It's crazy. And meme coins have got absolutely nuked as well. They've been destroyed. Good quality projects like DeepBook, Solana, sorry, not Solana, Nosana, Jupiter. It's been like these and Drift as well. Drift's been crazy, like nuts. But I'm only in a few alts, so I don't care really too much. I'm only in the actual big boys plus a few little big boys. But it's nuts. So the demand with the ETFs, yes, they buy predominantly OTC, but that's drying up. The OTC desks are drying up, and the situation will be get even more dire when they have to use the exchanges. Where they're going to find their Bitcoin. The supply, the demand is is going to heavily outweigh the supply, and you've got governments, you've got states, nations, you name it. They're coming into Bitcoin. They are waiting to be approved to buy Bitcoin, and you've got the likes of Michael Saylor with MicroStrategy, and well, changed the name to Strategy now. I own MicroStrategy stock as part of a sort of leverage play for Bitcoin for more potential upside. Yes, the volatility is majority down, but that's because we've had a difficult sort of period with Bitcoin. Anyway, that will go up. It really does say a lot because when you think about it, Bitcoin right now, ideally, it should be probably about 250k by now already. If there were no OTC desks and there were no, and all these companies, governments, big authorities had the green light to buy, then the price would be way higher than it is right now. And if you take into account as well, like what was it, like the Norwegian bank owns multiple hundreds of millions dollars worth of MicroStrategy. I can't remember the figure, maybe more. That tells you that, and it's obvious because they're waiting for approval so they can, by law buy Bitcoin because they're not allowed to. So how do they do it instead? They have to go and buy stock that is a proxy of Bitcoin, which is MicroStrategy. So they have to go and buy a stock which buys Bitcoin to have exposure to it, so they are indirectly exposed to it on their portfolio, on their balance sheet, right? Because they're not allowed to hold Bitcoin yet on their balance sheet until more and more as time goes on, things get approved and given the green light. Then we will see a significant move in Bitcoin, and that's when it's going to go insane. You think it's insane now? It's just started. That's another reason why I'm getting more and more bullish on Bitcoin and sort of rotating my funds into it in a sense where I know how finite the supply is and I know how, scarce and how people are almost FOMOing into this more so than alts. Clearly, we're gonna see pumps in alts in the next few months, from this month, I believe. But I'm already set for my alt bags. I'm fine. I'm just holding. I've got a lot in there, a lot in my alts, but I'm slowly moving some into Bitcoin because it's just, of course, I don't mind the volatility in alts. I don't intend to sell until it peaks. Well, that's the idea, right? But in the meantime, I want to personally myself build a Bitcoin bag. I actually eventually want to get to one whole Bitcoin, and that involves trading it. So what I've done right now, what I do is I trade Bitcoin only now because I'm sick of just looking at the alts go down and just struggling to recover because the Bitcoin dominance is so high. Yes, we're going to get a reversal in that soon. Fine, I understand. Bitcoin is still going to be the easiest, and it's always going to be the easiest play to trade because of its mild volatility rather than extreme volatility of the likes of, say, Solana or XRP when it has its moves because Bitcoin goes down, right? Or any altcoin for that matter. you trade it, you trade the more consistent asset, which is Bitcoin, and it's easier to make the profits, right? So I made a trade last night and got, what was this, a 5k trade, right? A 5x, 5k, and I made, what was it? I made 100, so I made $100, right? Very easy trade. It was like, you can see it here. Where is it? Very easy. Position history? Alright, here it is. Alright, so, 96.8 thousand, or 96,822 was my entry, and 97,214 was my exit, right? Give me a realized profit and loss of 91 because of the fees, because I'm trading 5k, and, well, 5x. And so, for me, if I'm earning that, right, if I am earning $100 based on such a small move, this is so small. That was the move. Like, just this choppiness was the move. That gave me $100, right, or $90. And then you do that on repeat, and then you withdraw it, or you buy it on here if you want. But what I do, I use Blofin for trading and BitUnex as well. Yeah, so I use Blofin and BitUnex. Two accounts. The price goes down, use the other account, right? Then you're more likely to continuously make profits, and that's what I've been doing. I have to say, it's been working very well for me. Just no higher than 5x on BTC. You don't get liquidated. The floor this time around, with all these buys from Michael Saylor and whatnot, and BlackRock, the floor price is not as volatile as last cycles because we're at such a higher price now. More people are holding, and when you get big buys like Michael Saylor buying 10,000 Bitcoin a week or 5,000 Bitcoin a week, and then that doesn't move, then that's not getting sold, right? So it's creating a higher floor price in general per week when he does that. Same with the likes of BlackRock that very rarely sell. It's just obvious. It's just goddamn obvious, right? Anyway, what was I saying? So yeah, I do that. I then withdraw for free on the Polygon network on here because it's free to do that. 0 fees if you withdraw on the Polygon network. So I withdraw that to like Binance, right? And I go on Binance, and then I buy with my profits Bitcoin. Right, I put in a limit order with the profits here. I did 112 just so I took it all out to make a whole number of 5,000. That's what I like to do. So I made that profit on that trade plus some change I had left over. So that added to that. So that is going to go into my Bitcoin bag, and that is essentially my bank where I store my profits. So all my profits are going to be stored in Bitcoin now until I reach a whole Bitcoin. And that is going to be my strategy from now on. Because yes, I could buy Solana. Yes, I could buy Sui, right? I could buy Pepe at this price right now, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not buying Pepe, that's for damn sure. Not anymore. Let that one ride. Memes right now, they will come back. Memes will come back, but no way. With all this manipulation at the moment in the market, it's just, you really just want to just be trading. If you are going to be trading just Bitcoin, I mean, these alts can get seriously impacted hard, right? Yeah, I think that's kind of everything. I mean, that's the strategy. Ultimately, make profits on what I've been doing, and it's been working. I've not been liquidated. I've not been stopped out once yet, and I've continued to make profits based on this very tedious and boring strategy, which, on repeat, it's like routine now. It's just so easy to do, especially when you get dips like this that we've had, and these sort of sell-offs here that we're in right now. I mean, it's just so easy just to jump into a low leverage long and then wait for the next ride up. I mean, it doesn't take much analysis really. especially when you can see the price action, right? This is literally the POC, the point of control, where most of the trades happen, is where we're at right now. So you get most of the buys and sells where we are right now. And then once the sells are over, because the sell pressure does eventually stop, then the price goes back up where we reach the next POC, which I think is 103. That's where the next sort of most of the trading happens, or has been happening the last month or two, right? So that's the next area of resistance, you could say, as well, 103. And you could argue this is forming into a bull flag because we had a massive dump, then the reversal very quickly, the pullback, consolidate, next leg up, right? That's how it works. So that's what I'm doing. It can be, and is probably going to be, a very long journey to one Bitcoin, but I'll tell you now, I'm on my way. I'm already a chunk of the way there, which is nice. I'll tell you that now. That is nice. I'm not going to say much about that, but yeah, I'm on my way there. The journey to one Bitcoin is happening. So I'm not a whale. I'm not a whale. Yeah, that's the ultimate goal, to eventually reach that. And then once you get to one Bitcoin, what do you do? What do you do with it? You're going to sell it? No. I'm just going to hold it. Probably just hold it. And then just hold that. And then in 5, 10 years, or 10 years, it'll get to 1 million. Maybe? Whatever. We don't know. But that's the plan. Just to stack to one Bitcoin, just sort of have it. That's one of those things you've always wanted to do, but never been able to do it, right? Get to one Bitcoin. It's always 0.1 or not even 0.1. It's always 0.03 that you have, never 0.1 or never 0.5, or especially now. But to get to one, and you're just trading, you're just literally DCAing your profits into Bitcoin. I mean, especially now, at these prices under 100k, it's just a nicer way to do it. Especially, I was used most of the time. I was trading my profits into just buying Solana. I've got that now. I've done that. I'm happy with my Solana bag. Very happy, especially when it's like $200 now. Solana at $200. I'm fine with that. Let that ride to 500 or whatever. But Bitcoin, I've been very heavily more on alts than Bitcoin, so I really want to just get to one Bitcoin. And I'll tell you what, it's easy if you know what you're doing. You're using low leverage, you're using, no more than 5x, and you're using isolated margin. Don't use cross margin ever. Cross margin is going to destroy your account because you go here. So essentially, the difference is, if you look at cross margin, I mean, you just have to look at cross margin, and you can just see how brutal it is. It basically taps into your entire account if things go wrong. If you get to liquidation level of 100%, minus 100%, it starts to tap into other assets, and then it can get to minus 200%, minus 300%, until your account is completely blown, and it's not a nice feeling. So please only do isolated, because it will only just factor in that trade alone. The amount you put in here, it will just factor in that alone. So always look out for that. Anyway, low risk, isolated trades, it's just a win-win. And I'm so thankful as well that I learned how to do this. If I had not learned how to do this, I would just be, what would I be doing in crypto? I mean, it's just spot trading, which is very profitable. I did a few memes. I did the Trump meme. I did the Melania meme. And I did Jupiter as well. When Jupiter mooned to 128, I front ran it. I literally front ran this. So I knew they were going to announce something at the Catstanbull Bull event. I knew it had something to do with buybacks. And I thought, you know what? The rumors about buybacks, I got to get in. So I got in at 90 and sold at 128. And now it's back down here. But that's because the markets are brutal. Anyway, so spot trading can work, but leverage trading, man. That is the way to go. That is the way to go. Well, if you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing and you're just, you have these targets of getting to a certain amount of money with higher leverage, you can get there, but you need to manage the risk properly, right? It's only going to be consistent if you know what you're doing, and it can feel amazing if you're winning on these trades with high leverage, but what good is it if eventually it doesn't work out because the market doesn't go your way because you're using too high leverage and the wrong asset? That's why I trade Bitcoin. 90%, now it's 100%. No higher than 5x. Most of the time 4x. But because we're under 100k and we're just still selling off, 5x is fine. I mean, what's my liquidation going to... My liquidation price is going to be 77. I had to look before I did the order. 77,000 is my liquidation. And say it does get to 80k and I'll get, a bit nervous. What do? You just add some margin to it. Add, 25% of the trade margin to it. And it just drops down, your liquidation drops down another 10k. Or whatever the calculation would be, right? So you never get liquidated. And I've never had to do that. I've done that once on a Sui position because Sui was getting a bit scary. This was months ago. I think this was in December time. Yeah. So again, that's another reason why you just trade Bitcoin, right? Because you don't get those violent swings. You get swings, but you get what, 10% drops? Like, look at this. This was a 9% drop based on that move. Yes, you could argue from here, but it was already falling. The sell-off. It's always been selling off at this 105k mark. Easy short. But, yeah. Was it 9%? Say 10% move? You don't really get much more than that. And that was the biggest liquidation event of all time. And we only got a 10% move. Wow, that's good. Alright, I'll wrap it up here. Hope that helps a bit because going into Bitcoin, the most scarce asset in the world, I've got my alt bag, trading profits into Bitcoin, building a Bitcoin bag, low risk trading. It's going well, but it just makes more sense to go into Bitcoin, the less volatile asset. And yes, we're going to get altcoin season. That's coming. I know that. I'm all set up for that. But I've been very underexposed to Bitcoin. That's why I'm doing this. And to get to one whole Bitcoin, that's probably over 50% of people's overall dream, to get to one whole Bitcoin these days anyway. All right, I'll leave it there. Yeah. Trade Bitcoin is not financial advice, but it's the easiest one to do. Less volatile, consistent profits, rotate into whatever you want. You don't have to do Bitcoin, but you can buy your XRP, you can buy your Solana, you can buy your Sui, you can buy your Pepe. But ultimately, it's the easiest one to trade. Alright? Alright, please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.